This episode of Sideline Warning is brought to you by Roost Sport, makers of the original magnetic running pouch. Whether you're biking, running, hiking, or even traveling, the Roost Sport clips to your waistband with magnets for an easy, convenient way to carry what you need without the bulk of belts or bags. Visit theroostsport.com and use the code SIDELINE30, all lowercase, for 30% off their entire product line. Again, that's theroostsport.com, promo code SIDELINE30. And now on with the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Sideline Warning, the show where sports takes are sure to go way too far into the field. Here to recap this week's biggest and best sports stories are your hosts, Dave Adams, Ben Foster, and Adam Russell.
And welcome everybody to Sideline Warning, episode 53 on this glorious day because Alabama is once again tops of the SEC, and for once we have the trophy to bring along to show everybody that Alabama is the best of the SEC. You've got the golden voice of the Southeast, Dave Adams, coming to you live and in living color from Harvest, Alabama, here to talk about it. And as always, I have brought my friends along all the way from Birmingham, Alabama, the one, the only, Hollywood Ben Foster.
Hey Dave, how's it going?
It's going, Ben. Have you recovered from your jet setting?
Not only have I recovered from my trip to Atlanta, I've already put up my Christmas tree.
You send us all a picture, and I was expecting a Charlie Brown tree. Single guys living at an apartment usually don't put up a nice decorated.
But it looks pretty good, doesn't it?
It looks decent. I'm impressed.
I got tree skills.
You got mad tree skills, and for once it was a nice full Christmas tree. I was expecting it to be like a palm tree, kind of like a tree that our other co-hosts, the person from, I don't know, the House of Mouse, Sky Lake, Silver Lake, Lisbon, Pittman, Paradise Heights, Orla Vista, Okahumpka, St. Cloud, Poinciana, the phenomenal brother, the president of the Jalen Hurts fan club this week, Adam Russell.
Boy, am I eating some serious crow today, gentlemen.
That's, yeah.
I relinquished that title gladly, begging for another nickname. And I have to be honest, I'm humble enough to say I wouldn't go back and say that I want it back because I was not a fan. So
are you a fan now?
Well, I want to stipulate, and I want to make sure everybody remembers correctly that my biggest beef was that it seemed like that his dad was going to stir up a whole pot of crap, right? And that if there was going to be drama brought just to hang on to Jalen, that it would be best for everybody if he went somewhere else. I didn't think that his talent was there. Evidently, he's done a lot of development, and he came out as the player to do the right thing in there. And in that regard, I am a Jalen Hurts fan, yes. But I just want everybody to remember, I didn't call him a loser. I never said that he should transfer because he stinks or anything like that. I just said, I don't think it's worth it to bring the drama.
Well, there was some drama, the kind of drama you want to make a great storybook movie out of.
See, that's what I'm saying. So it ended up working out for everybody.
I do kind of want to go back and listen to the old tape because if I remember correctly, the question was poised.
Yes.
Would you want Jalen to transfer to Auburn, and would you be afraid of Jalen transferring to Auburn? And if I remember, the answer was go ahead. He doesn't scare me. He's not the quarterback that could beat Alabama.
Having the data point to go off of the previous year's national championship game and A-Day, given that was probably the second week of the season and might even been a preseason conversation, I would still stand by that at that point in time. But he stayed on to stay with our OC and quarterbacks coach so that he could learn. And obviously it was the right decision.
Okay. Well, let's get into the meat and potatoes here. We got to talk about the game first. Let's go ahead and throw it out there. The worst game Alabama's played this year?
The best team Alabama's played this year?
Right, but
both true.
The worst game Alabama's played?
Well, there were a lot of miscues. Certainly the closest margin of victory.
Yeah.
By a long shot.
Jerry Jeudy, I don't have it here, but how many passes did Jerry Jeudy drop? Irv Smith drops a wide open 30-yard 30-yard grab on 50-yard line. Tua Tagovailoa can't complete a pass to save his life. 10 of 25 for 164. The defense can't stop these dinking and dunking passes. They can't stop the run game. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I gave up.
It's clear Alabama, with so many miscues, so many missed opportunities, it is absolutely clear to me Alabama would not have won this game if they'd not paid the refs. If it wasn't for their close relationship with the SEC office. I mean, Greg Sankey was at the game. The commissioner was at the game. What more evidence do you need that it was rigged in Bama's favor?
I know, right?
And thank you to all of the Georgia fans out there who have decided to make it their mission to so thoroughly document the bias of the referees, because it only just proves that it's not a whiny fan base here. It's actual true collusion. So thank you to all of you guys. I mean, much love.
Exactly. And that makes – so the game happened. Before we get – I do want to go on that point, Adam.
Hey, I didn't take us down that tangent. Your boy over there, Hollywood, did, all right?
I know.
I didn't take us on that tangent. But I will say, going back to the game, I thought our run defense was pretty good. I was satisfied with that, especially given how Auburn played against us. I think that Josh Jacobs deserved the MVP. I think from a dramatic standpoint, Jalen probably could have won it there too, but I think he earned it. I have concerns coming out of this game, though, Dave. We're going to talk about things we were talking about week 2 and week 3. Our secondary against Kyler Murray. I have significant concerns about that.
Can I hear the 4 words that every co-host longs to hear? Dave, you were...
Please mute your mic.
No.
Those 4 words?
Dave, you were
wrong. Dave, you were wrong. I do love to hear it. I do love to hear that. I love to hear that when that happens.
The Alabama secondary looked very suspect, but the thing that makes me a little, I guess, to go the opposite side of Adam here, that doesn't make me worry about it is Oklahoma doesn't dink and dunk. They like to hit you with the long home run pass and get their offense off the field and bring that atrocious defense back on the field. Alabama's built to stop that. We saw that in the Ole Miss game. Alabama is built to stop that. They're not built to stop these Jake Fromm type quarterbacks who like to sit in the pocket. The last 2 times Alabama has played Georgia, it's not the running backs that have beat Alabama. It's the pocket style Jake Fromm quarterback. And it blows my mind that old school football is becoming the way to beat Alabama, because when it was the Kirby Smart regime, it was the running quarterback. But the last times that Alabama has struggled on defense, it's been the pocket statuesque quarterback.
Well, evidently that is Kirby Smart's trademark, getting beat by a running quarterback.
Exactly.
I mean, obviously that is his weak spot that he was contributing to the defense. I agree. I think my concern is that we've given them something to ponder, because it wasn't just a dink and dunk type thing where someone was open and they were finding space. It was truly players out of position. It was misdirection causing confusion on our defense, where the one thing we've got to watch, everything else aside, is the running back coming out of the backfield for a little wheel route, getting 15, 20, 30 yards in a chunk. I think that's the one thing we've got to learn a little bit of discipline around. Everything else will take care of itself, I would imagine. But that's the one thing that I'm concerned the most about with coming out of this game.
Well, I think while it's really easy to point out a lot of the problems with the defense in this game, I also think it's important to take a look at what the defense did in the second half. Those halftime adjustments were exceptional. Georgia scored once in the second half, and they were essentially shut out for 27 minutes. And without a doubt, the defense could have played better in the first half. But also, it's worth pointing out that coming out of halftime, Georgia already had an extraordinary time of possession. They had well over half of the first half where they had their offense out there, and every time Bama's defense went out there, they were having to immediately go right back out because there were turnovers and miscues and short drives from Bama's offense. Now they're used to going out there quickly after Tua scores, but not when they're having to rush out there after just having a turnover, after having an interception. So the defense was doing a lot of work in the first half, and then they got to work in the second half. So that's kudos to them for making some big halftime adjustments.
Yeah, I will say that is very true. And I've never seen a Jekyll and Hyde team just like that. It blew my mind that Alabama's defense could play like that. And then it kind of made me mad. Why was this defense playing stunned in the first half? Because it truly looked like they were stunned. They didn't know what was coming.
Well, Georgia made some great adjustments because it certainly looked on the opening drive when Bama's defense shut Georgia down 3 and out, it looked like everything was going to go Bama's way. You go, all right, defense is aggressive. They've got Georgia's number. And then Georgia made some great adjustments, and they were ready to go after their first drive stalled.
Yeah, I think that the MVP of the Georgia side might be Jim Chaney. I mean, people got mad at Jim Chaney's play calling the first year or so that he was at Georgia. But I think that Jim Chaney might be one of the best coaches out there on the Georgia staff. And it shocks me that he's still there because I don't know. I mean, Georgia's not known for a prolific offense. And we saw a very good Georgia offense this Saturday.
No, Georgia played phenomenal. And I think Georgia's getting their money's worth out of Kirby Smart. It's just not translating to national championships yet.
Right. And while we're on the subject of Kirby Smart, I want to bring up Kirby Smart's 4th and 11 decision. And then I also want to bring up his comments after the game. The 4th and 11 decision, that might rank up there with one of the stupidest play calls I've ever seen a good head coach, supposed good head coach make. Might be up there with a Les Miles clock management class.
I think, and probably reading way too much into this and projecting way too much into something we don't know anything about, but I think that given Saban, when he went against Clemson, it was the onside kick was the big decision. Right. When he beat Georgia, he put in 2 in the second half. I think Kirby wanted his signature moment. I think he saw that as, I'm going to call a fake punt. We're going to get it. We're going to put Alabama away. The game's over at this point, and people are going to remember that I made a gutsy decision, just like, quote, that coach on the other sideline has done twice now. And I think that he let his ego get the best of him on that one. And then to turn it around and to tie the two together, and I'm not trying to shift to the other, but I just want to say, to tie it to his comments where he said that the reason that fake punt failed is because Alabama didn't have a man covered, and then we shifted our defense to cover a man. We were in D safe the whole time. We were in punt safe the whole time. None of our players moved before the snap. So to sit there and say that the players took too long to snap the ball and let the defense adjust themselves, we weren't moving. So just suck it up and say that you made a bad call. But I think he tried to have a signature moment.
Not only was Alabama in punt safe, everybody that was on the field for Georgia at that point were offensive players. It was not the normal punt crew. So we're referring to it as a fake punt, but there was nothing fake about it. Everybody knew what was coming. Everybody in that stadium. You could have gone to somebody who had never been to a football game before, and they go, "Something's not right here," because it was obvious what was coming. And when it's obvious that it's coming, and the defense knows it's coming, you've got to take a time out there. You got to go, all right, we tried to be cute, we tried to be clever, it's not going to work. Alabama's being Alabama. They know what's coming. You've got to take that time out, and you've got to punt. Or in that setup, you punt. You have somebody that can punt anyway, and you go ahead and punt. But you don't continue with the fake play after it's clear the defense has already read it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, not only was that a stupid play call because that was your basically your offense, it wasn't even a punter back there. It was Justin Fields, your backup quarterback, who you've already put in the game as a backup quarterback.
Several times.
Yeah, several times. Alabama was ready. They were keyed. They were keyed on that, and it didn't look pretty. And I don't know. Then to go talking about it, I hate to talk about every coach and say, well, the Bear did it this way. But the three of us, I guarantee you, have spent enough times at the Bryant Museum where we've heard the Keith Jackson video there, the back of the building, where he says, when Alabama won, the Bear was praising everybody, including the ticket taker. When Alabama lost, it was all on Bear. But Georgia loses this game. Oh, it's the players' fault. They didn't snap it quick enough. Alabama moved. I'm sorry. But before Georgia hired Kirby Smart, the narrative at Alabama was Kirby Smart is going to be the coach in waiting. He's going to be the Alabama guy. He's going to be the heir apparent to Nick Saban. Alabama dodged a bullet because I don't want that whiny little female dog wearing crimson and white as the head coach.
David Adams.
I'm sorry, but Kirby Smart showed his true colors on Saturday.
Well, just the disrespect too of calling him the coach across the sideline, and the disrespect of, Alabama got to sit last year and let everybody get beat up. I get it, you're frustrated, you're letting it all out, but I mean, Nick Saban provided you with the opportunity to get to where you were today. He brought you into the system, allowed you to show yourself so that you could go get the Georgia head coach, and I think that it just showed a lack of. I mean, it was a total Brian Kelly move to liken it to another playoff team. It felt like Brian Kelly was up there throwing his players under the bus and talking bad about the other team.
Yeah, if I'm a Georgia fan, they're all out there complaining about all these bad calls, but when really they need to complain about their coach and how their coach made a bad coaching decision. Yeah, calls did go against Alabama. Calls did go against Georgia. There were some questionable referee moments in this game, but the most questionable moment in this 2018 SEC championship will not go to the refs. It will go to Kirby Smart.
Well, if you want to question something, question why Georgia didn't recover a couple of fumbles. Alabama gave Georgia a ton of opportunities in this game, and
right.
And Georgia capitalized on a few of them, but there were even more opportunities where Georgia could have capitalized, and if they had, they would have won this game. If they had scored more than one time in the second half, they would have won.
Yeah, let's talk about some other things that they should have figured out. So last year, the way Alabama beat Georgia January, when Alabama beat Georgia, Alabama beat them by putting in a quarterback they weren't prepared for. Tua Tagovailoa gets hurt. Outtrots the Lone Ranger, outtrots the man that Alabama forgot, according to the nation, outtrots the man that was benched, Jalen Hurts. Funny anecdote, I didn't tell you guys about this, but I was talking with a friend of mine at work whose friend went to the game, who was sitting next to a Georgia fan. And when Jalen goes in, he looked at my friend who's a Bama fan and said, "We're going to lose. We haven't prepared for Jalen." And that's what it looked like. It looked like Georgia did not prepare for Jalen. But if you think about it, if a team beats you last year by putting in your backup quarterback that they weren't ready for, if you're Kirby Smart, don't you at least get a little bit of your team prepared for Jalen Hurts just in case?
Well, you'd think that you'd look at the videos, but you've only got a week to prepare, and if you've watched Alabama this season, if you don't stop Tua or injure Tua, he's going to put the game away before Jalen's going to see the field. So it's kind of understandable. It's kind of understandable to think that they would have just prepared for Tua this year. But the difference between last year and this year is last year, Tua was a surprise because there was no game film on him. When he'd come in, it was always garbage time. And this year, they should have been prepared for Jalen because they played an entire half against him last year. They had video. There's plenty of video on Jalen Hurts. It's not like he's an unknown backup quarterback. He's a guy they've played against. And to be that poorly prepared, and I get it, Jalen looked great. They probably weren't ready for some of those passes Jalen threw because those passes were phenomenal.
Yeah.
But they should have been prepared, and failure to prepare is preparing to fail. That's a cliche that gets thrown around a lot. But with Alabama, what does Saban do best? He prepares better than anybody else.
Right.
He recruits better than anybody else. But the thing Saban really does is he prepares better than anybody else. Remember the practice shows that were coming on at the beginning of the season? What was everybody commenting on? The size of the notebooks, the scouting reports on other teams that Saban had. They were looking at Bobby Petrino, Arkansas info from a decade ago, to get ready for Bobby Petrino to coach a terrible Louisville team. Saban had everything on this Georgia team. Georgia didn't have everything on Alabama, and that's a coaching flaw.
And that shocks me because Kirby Smart knows how Saban prepares. Kirby Smart has been in those coaching discussions, and it seems like Kirby is just, I don't know. I hate to say this because I'm going to curse on the show, but Kirby is half-assing coaching. He looks like he wants to be the coach, the players' friends on the sideline. He jumps up and down. He celebrates like Scott Cochran does, but he doesn't stand there and coach like a coach should. Call me old-fashioned, but I don't think that Kirby wants to be Nick Saban. Kirby wants to be Kirby.
Yeah. I think that's 100% true. But you also look at that and you say if Nick Saban wasn't in the formula, if Nick Saban had already retired at this point, Kirby would have a national championship most likely. Kirby might have be working on his second national championship. In a world where Saban's not there, Kirby doing Kirby's thing, even if it's not 100% of Saban, in most eras, Georgia would be the best team in the country.
But that's the thing. It's not most eras. It's this era. In a world where ... Well, we're not in that world. Kirby needs to not live in a fantasy world. He needs to live in the world where Nick Saban is the coach on the other sideline and maybe learn from the blueprint. Nick Saban learned from Bill Belichick. He's not Bill Belichick, but he's doing the things that Bill Belichick does. So wouldn't you think that blueprint is there? And Kirby, if he was a smart guy, would say, it worked for Belichick. It's worked for Saban. This is what I should work with.
Yeah, I don't think that there's enough time for a lot of coaches to be able to pull off what Saban and Belichick do. I think they're unique, and I think even if you spend 8, 9, 10 years learning under them, it may not be that easy to replicate. What that should do is not say Kirby Smart's a flawed coach. It should make you have a greater appreciation of how good and how exceptional Nick Saban is. Because even if you spend a decade learning from him, you still can't replicate it.
Yeah, that's very true. All right, so let's move on to a topic that I wanted to get into before I got off on my tangent here. Jalen Hurts. Could William Shakespeare have written a better drama? Could he have scripted the Jalen Hurts story any better? Because we've all dogged Jalen Hurts on this show, on social media.
Speak for yourself.
No, you dogged him as well.
I have defended him. I have defended Jalen for quite some time. And
Adam.
The only person that I remember Ben apologizing for more is Avery Johnson.
Wow.
That's just my recollection, though.
Okay. I definitely said Tua should be the starter, but I didn't dog Jalen.
Okay.
So speak for yourself.
The poise, we say in our fight song, Bama's pluck and grit have written his name in crimson flame. I don't know of a man who deserves his name writ in crimson flame more in the Saban era than Jalen Hurts. I have never seen Nick Saban get choked up on national TV until Saturday night when he was explaining how proud he was of Jalen Hurts.
Well, everybody, this is one thing we did all agree on back when all the Jalen Tua drama was happening, was that we didn't know what all was going on. We didn't know all the conversations they were having. We didn't know everything that was being discussed in the background. Right. And that if Jalen was making a decision to stay, it had to be in his best interest, and it had to be something that he as a grown man and his family together were all making a decision with Nick telling them. You know, one of my friends on Facebook always comes back and says that Saban did wrong by Jalen. I've never agreed with that because I know that he wouldn't have stayed. But in this time where you've got quarterbacks transferring and moving and going, and they're almost like a free agency starts to spin up around college football, to see somebody do something that a lot of people thought he was crazy for ended up being exactly the right thing for not just his team, but him to be able to step up and show how much he's progressed in the last, 9, 10 months or 11 months. It's incredible. I mean, it's so much so, guys. My pastor here is not a football guy. He's a surfer. but he actually told
Whoa.
the story of Jalen and Tua this Sunday and likened it to King David.
I
I
had
mean,
never thought of it that way,
you've
but
got
that's
of persistence and sticking with the course and that type of thing when things were going bad. I mean, he likened it to King David. I have people post, and you see it, people post on Twitter and Facebook, tell your children about this as a lesson of persistence. I mean, this truly is what the process does. At the end of the day, the process doesn't just win national championships, because that's the ultimate goal of the team. Nick Saban's individual goal is to create human beings that create more based off of everything they've got to offer to what they're a part of. And they lift the whole thing up. And this was the process on display.
yeah, it was. And I want to bring a point to the national media, to anybody who's listening to us who aren't Alabama fans and don't watch a lot of Alabama games. If you're listening to us and you don't watch Bama games, welcome. Why are you listening to us?
Please don't stop, though.
Right, please don't stop, because we are an Alabama podcast. But if you haven't watched an Alabama game and you haven't heard the crowd roar when Jalen Hurts comes into a ball game, it's because we as the Alabama nation respect the hell out of Jalen Hurts, because what he has done for this team, what he has meant to this team. He knew that he was not going to get the starting job, probably. He knew what this season was going to mean for him, but he was a man about it, and he stayed at the school because he wanted to learn under Dan Enos, just waiting for his time to shine. And it came on the grandest stage, the time that the team needed him the most. He shined. And I think this sets up our question, one of our questions we got on Facebook perfectly. Adam, you yesterday posted on the Facebook fan group, Sideline Warning fan group, ask us questions because we're recording today. From Philip Duvall, we got the question: should Jalen forego his senior season and test NFL waters, or should he stay and continue his legacy? Or should he transfer to, say, a TCU and lead them to a 7-5 record, possibly exposing himself to injury or not even winning the starting job, or being ineffective and ruining his chances to the NFL? I think, and you guys might disagree with me, but I think against an NFL caliber defense Saturday night, it might have been a microcosm, but Jalen Hurts probably showed enough to NFL scouts that he could get drafted probably in the 4th or 5th round, and somebody will take a flyer on him. I think if he's smart, he graduates this year. If he's smart, he doesn't transfer. I think he goes and tries the NFL this year.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it hurts anything to test the waters in the NFL. I think, though, that it's all going to depend on him individually, what he wants to do with his draft stock, right? He's going to have to show more if he wants to move up. If he really thinks he's developed into a player that could compete with Tua now, and win that starting job back, I don't know if it's stay there or transfer to a place that has more of an opportunity to be the front man. But I think if he wants to get drafted higher, he's going to have to show more stats. He's going to have to show more complete development in more phases of the game than just 2 touchdown drives. Because it's the same thing that happened to Tua last year, right? That shooting star, great story, and now all of a sudden he's high. Tua just happened to be able to maintain that performance. Jalen's going to have to show that he can maintain it if he really wants to be serious about getting drafted high in the NFL.
And in order to maintain that, he's got to get more snaps, and that's why I think he's got to go to another school. As much as we don't want to lose him, and it's very possible. We think Tua's going to be healthy for the playoff, but Jalen could come in there and wind up playing significant time or starting a playoff game or two, hopefully 2, and
hopefully none, because let's hope 2 is better.
Well, I'm saying hopefully there'd be 2 games that he could play in.
Okay.
That he could play in. So, anyway, Jalen could come in there and play significant time in a couple of games and make a strong impression. I'm still not sure that's going to be enough for NFL scouts. Despite what he had last year, you have where he plays very well for 12 games last year. But not NFL caliber last year. We've argued that till that's dead. He didn't look like an NFL quarterback last year, and you can't have a couple of great passes in the second half of a game against Georgia and say, okay, now he's NFL ready. But
Right.
huge credit to Dan Enos. I mean, we've talked about how this is a great story. Anybody will tell you how great of a story it is. And Jalen and Tua have gotten great credit. Mike Locksley has gotten great credit. I don't think Dan Enos' name has been said enough. And in a world where Mike Locksley may not be with this team next year, I think we know who the offensive coordinator would be. You can take a Cliff Kingsbury rumor or anything like that. The guy that should be the offensive coordinator if Mike Locksley's gone is Dan Enos for the exceptional job he has done with both of these quarterbacks, not just improving them as passers, but also just handling personalities. Jalen and Tua are two very different personalities, and he's made it work with both of them. So Dan Enos, well-deserving of being an offensive coordinator and well-deserving of his current title of associate head coach.
Yeah, very much so. Very, very much so. That game, the Jalen stuff, it left me speechless Saturday. I went and watched the Deontay Wilder fight, and while that was an amazing fight, I texted Adam when it was over. I said, dude, is it wrong that 4 hours later I'm still on a high after this game? And Adam said, no, because I am too.
Yeah. It's one thing.
Checking.
Well, I mean, it's one thing to win. It's even another thing to win in sudden fashion like we did in the national championship game. But to win and have the story come full circle and be such a good story. I mean, you don't see a lot of football programs, and I'm looking at you, Ohio State, win with any kind of dignified story attached to it. It's, yeah, we won, but let's not pay attention to all the other stuff. We get to tell you everything that happens in our program, and these cool things happen from it. So the whole thing as an Alabama fan, the entire experience of that game was just a lot. I don't know that a lot of people are still probably completely over it.
I had to
it
keep
won't be
checking.
for a while.
I had to keep checking. I was like, did that really happen? Did Jalen score on a design run? Did Jalen really score at the end? Was he the winning touchdown? Like, I just had to keep like rechecking all those things. I'm like, no, that really did happen. And I'm like, did Jalen pass us? No, Jalen did it. Jalen got the job done. It doesn't get any more perfect.
It really doesn't. The only other way it could get even close to that is if it happened the way I texted the group, because with a minute left before Jalen ran into the end zone, I said, this is going to come down into a bull of a field goal, isn't it? To which I believe both of y'all said, shut up.
God bless you, Jalen, for nothing other than that. At the very least, bless you for that.
All right, guys. Well, go ahead, Ben.
I was going to say it was like all of the air went out of me when we scored, and then I immediately sucked all of the air back in when it was time for the extra point. So
right.
I was like, oh wait, we still have to do one of those.
Right. So with Alabama winning the SEC, we knew Alabama would be the 1 seed. We knew Clemson at the 2. We thought we knew Notre Dame at the 3. The big question was number 4. Of course, the committee, we know now the committee has Alabama playing Oklahoma in Miami. Will Smith becomes relevant again with the Alabama fan base. We're going to Miami. Welcome to Miami. Okay. Party in the city where the heat is on all night on the beach.
Yes, we know the song. Please stop singing it.
Okay. Yes. Just making sure y'all understood. And
Dodged a
Dallas,
close one there, Adam.
It's Clemson and Notre Dame. So the question I have, did the committee get it right? Because I believe Adam had some disparaging remarks towards me on Twitter on Saturday night. Adam, did the committee get it right?
Absolutely, 110% they got it right. There's no way Georgia should have stayed in or moved up. And I know there might be some people who are ready to speak next after me that felt differently about that. One who completely changed their Twitter handle to talk about how deserving Georgia was. But no, I think they absolutely got it right. We knew the top 3, but when Oklahoma comes back and avenges a close game in the regular season to beat Texas and beat them by more than a few points, I think there's not anybody else you could make a case that goes in there. If Georgia had not lost to LSU, I think then we'd have a much different conversation right now. I would probably be more on keeping them in, given how close this game was. But I think that loss to LSU just sits out there shines too brightly to move Georgia up into the top 4.
So let me explain myself why I changed my Twitter handle. if we are talking, the college football playoff was made to put the 4 best teams into the playoffs. Am I wrong, gentlemen?
Oh, you're
It's supposed
absolutely
to be
right.
the 4 best teams.
That's what they say.
Okay. And if we go by what everybody has been saying, this Georgia team that lost by a touchdown to Alabama, that led Alabama for 59 minutes of the game, this Georgia team would be favored over Oklahoma, and they'd be favored over Ohio State. In my mind, the game that we saw Saturday night was the national championship game. I believe Georgia would beat Clemson. I believe Georgia would beat Notre Dame. I know Georgia would beat Oklahoma, and Georgia would beat Ohio State. And Lord knows they would beat UCF and Michigan and Washington. To me, Georgia is the number 2 team in the country. They just have a stupid idiot for a coach and sleptwalked through that LSU game and gave up the Alabama game. They gave up the Alabama game. To me, the players on the Georgia team deserve the recognition that they should get. Georgia is one of the top 4 teams in the country. The record, it's hard to justify that. I believe your justification was, Adam, this isn't Pee Wee middle school gym. You don't get participation trophies. You lost. I'm sorry. Move on.
Well, it centers around the fact, too, that we've said it several times this football season on this very podcast, is that any given Saturday, one team could give another one fits. So if Georgia came into this game undefeated, Alabama came into this game undefeated, and it was close, Georgia stays at number 4, at least, absolutely stays there. But you look at the entire season, and on another given Saturday, Georgia wasn't up to par with a team that is number 11 and is behind Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Clemson, Ohio State, Michigan, UCF, Washington, and all those other teams you named that they would definitely, in air quotes, beat. They did not beat LSU. And so I've said it several times. To me, with the way this lineup is done, if everybody had a loss, it's a different story, but it's a double elimination tournament in my mind. And once you've got 2 losses, you're done, because that means even if one of those is your SEC championship game only by a touchdown to Alabama and you led most of the game, another game down the path to a lesser team, you lost. And so you're done. Oklahoma doesn't have a loss like that.
But here's the thing. Georgia has 2 losses because they played in the SEC. If Georgia was an independent like Notre Dame and they still played the same schedule they played, they might have a loss to LSU, but they'd be a 1-loss team with a resume every bit as good as Oklahoma's. Georgia would be
Didn't stop Alabama from going undefeated.
Look, yeah, I get it. Bama's a better team. Bama's a better team than Georgia. That's why they beat Georgia. Yeah. But I'm saying Georgia, if they were an independent like Notre Dame, they would be in the top 4. If Georgia played in the Big 12, they would have won the Big 12 because they would have been the only defense in the Big 12. They would have beaten Oklahoma because they would have stopped them. They would have had stops that Oklahoma just wouldn't have been prepared for. So if Georgia was in the Big 12, Georgia would have made it in. The only teams that Georgia couldn't beat would be Bama and maybe Clemson. I think it's a coin toss if you put Georgia and Clemson. But if you give Georgia enough time to game plan for Clemson, I think Georgia could beat Clemson on the right day. But Georgia's at a disadvantage because they're in the SEC. They wouldn't have 2 losses if they hadn't played Alabama, or if they had to play Clemson. They might have 2 losses. But otherwise, they'd be a top 4 team.
But they're in the SEC in a year where the East, other than Kentucky having a fluke year, which we knew Georgia can't hang with them, but the East is weak, and you're round robining the entire East, and you draw 2 games from the West, and you pick Auburn, who's middle of the pack at best.
Well, they didn't pick Auburn. That's their.
No,
that's
but you draw. I didn't mean pick. I mean you draw. You draw this year. Happen to rotate through where you've got Auburn and LSU, 2 middle of the pack teams in the West. So if Georgia was in the SEC West and had to play every one of those teams, including Alabama, they'd be a 3-loss team potentially right now. So I don't think that means you can say that they would be in the top 4, given the way that they played. The problem at the end of the day is we're all wanting, the people who want Georgia to stay in are wanting the playoff committee to be predictive and say that Georgia would beat all of these teams, therefore they should be up there with them. But the committee can be nothing but reactive and look at the resume they've been presented with by a team. And if it wasn't for that loss against LSU, they'd be in. End of story. I mean, you lose by almost 3 touchdowns to LSU, you're not getting in. The same way Ohio State's not getting in with a loss to Purdue. So,
So
we can agree to disagree, but
yeah, we'll agree to disagree. Now, the committee, given the parameters that the committee has, the committee did get it right. I will say that. But we got another question I want to talk about on the fan group.
I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, from Cameron Humphrey. How about a possible playoff constructions for questions? I hate the idea of all Power 5 champs because this year Washington would have gotten in. I like an 8-team playoff with the top 8 teams getting in. I would also be down for a 12-team playoff and just do away with the stupid bowls. Now, we say that, and then, of course, our super fan, Kyle's Key Stat of the Week, he also sent us another diagram of what would have happened with his 8-team playoff. He would have had, I'm pulling it up now. My stupid phone is going slow. So according to him, remember, he has all Power 5 getting in. You have a group of 5 automatic and the independent automatic. And then because of all that, you'd have one at large. He's got Alabama at 1, Washington at 8. So Alabama would play Washington. Oklahoma would then play Georgia as their opening round. Clemson would get everyone's favorite team, the Golden Knights. And then the independent at large would be Notre Dame against Ohio State. I'm sorry, but if we're doing an 8-team playoff, sign me up because I want that.
Well, but that's what we always talk about. Does sometimes the committee send messages with their rankings, right? The top 4 are who's in, right? I think they've structured this entire the top 8, to send a message of here. If you actually could expand to an 8-team playoff where the rankings were used to do that, this is the matchup you would have: Bama UCF, the 1 versus the 8. You would have Bama UCF, the 1 versus the 8 guys. Your 4 and 5 would be Oklahoma, Georgia. Those brackets would tie together. So you could potentially have a either Bama, Oklahoma, which we already have, or a Bama, Georgia rematch if they both won their games. On the other side, you've got Clemson and Michigan. Who wouldn't love to see that game? And Notre Dame, Ohio State. Who wouldn't love to see that game? Now you've got potentially Clemson, Notre Dame, which is what we already have, or a Michigan, Ohio State rematch. So I think the committee structured this top 8 to say, you go figure out how to make it happen, and look what you would have with what we gave you. This would be the best playoff scenario I think we could have come up with after the season we've had. You would answer the Bama UCF question and set up 2 potential rematches for the semifinal. I mean, come on. So I'm a big proponent of it. I think they've set it up to show perfectly here what the picture would look like.
Ben's over here just salivating.
I'm just waiting. There is no team outside the top 4 that could win a national championship. I know I just spent significant amounts of time arguing Georgia should be in the top 4, but Saturday proved Georgia's not going to get past Alabama. Alabama's going to have enough to handle Georgia. We don't need a rematch. Even though I think Georgia's one of the 4 best teams in the country, we don't need a rematch. There's not a team outside the top 4 that's going to win the national championship if you have an 8-team playoff. So all you're really doing is throwing out some extra TV stuff, which is fine because if there's an 8-team playoff, I'll watch it. I just don't think it's necessary. Especially if the only way it becomes necessary is if Tua can't play and Jalen gets knocked out in a game, then Alabama is in trouble. They could be in trouble in an early round game. So, but that's not good football. You don't want a team with injured players to miss out on a national championship when they should be able to play for a national championship when everybody in the room knows they're the best team that could be on the field. So if you go to an 8-team playoff, you're actually jeopardizing the opportunity of the national championship to have the 2 best teams. I think 4 is perfect. I don't think you need any more. I get it. There's always going to be somebody complaining they should be in, but of course, because everybody wants a national title. But in the same way we talked about, Kirby wants a national title, but he's not going to get one. Not everybody needs to be in a playoff. We got 4 teams. That's going to be plenty.
So coming from a basketball guy, where there are how many teams?
69.
There's not a
69.
There's
68.
I'm trying to think of how to word this. I was like, that's not an even number. It's
sorry.
Almost
68.
midnight here. So for me, how can you say then that it's okay for basketball to jeopardize having the best 2 in the final, but it's not okay in a football scenario?
They're different sports.
Yeah,
Yeah,
basketball.
that's true. Yes,
they
they use different balls, and I think they score differently
they
too.
swing bats in baseball, but I don't think we should bring bats on the football field. It's two different things.
But baseball and basketball have best of series. I mean, you can. But what is it about football though, where you wouldn't want to have the best two teams in the national championship? Every other sport puts it in a place where you may not have the best two teams. Why not college football?
I don't think that's as fun. I think in football, I want the conclusiveness of the two best teams. In basketball, I think there is so much variance and so much parity. There's a 64 team tournament in basketball because some mid-major teams are kind of good. The mid-majors, this is what we've been arguing against UCF for all this time. The mid-majors, even when they're really good, they're not that good. It's fun to see a George Mason make it to the Final Four. We don't really want to see UCF make it to the Final Four because all that's going to happen is they're going to get trounced. Yeah, exactly. We're going to see them get curb stomped. That's what's going to happen. If you put UCF up against Alabama or Clemson, you're just going to go see UCF get curb stomped.
Okay, and so let's say
that's not fun for football when it really boils down to it.
And I'll let you wrap this up, Dave. I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but let's say that UCF, Mackenzie Milton's not in the mix, unfortunately. God bless him. But let's say they flip that and it's Washington instead of UCF, and now you've got the Pac-12 champion there. You have all 5 of your Power 5 conference champs in there. Does your view on that change at all? If it's not about giving UCF a chance, but now it's about now you've got everybody represented? You still think it's not fun in that case?
You're asking me?
I'm asking you.
Yeah,
I'm asking you.
Keeping it forward.
If you flip UCF with Washington, and Washington's the one in, now all of your Power 5 champs are in there with a few other mixed in for some fun, right? Is that still not representative of how you decide who the best team in college football is?
Look, Washington doesn't deserve to be there. Have you watched a Pac-12 game this year?
I have. I actually have. Yeah, I'm up late, just like right now.
I'm gonna get to this. I'm gonna get to this in my sideline warning. So I don't want to say too much. But Washington doesn't belong there.
This is a good takeoff point then.
All right.
I'll hand the reins back over to you.
All right. Well, we're all discombobulated here, but one thing we all can agree on is that we love the product of Roof Sport and their Roof Sport pouches. They're at www.theroofsport.com. Adam, kick it off.
Yeah. There's enough room in a Roof Sport pouch that magnetically clips to your waistband so that you can run without the bulk of belts or bags. There's enough room in these for 8 teams. And to have only 4 teams in a Roof Sport would be sorely underutilizing the space available to you, which is exactly what I think is happening here. That said, the only thing I would like more than an Alabama-UCF matchup in a quarterfinal of a playoff is using my Roof Sport. Dave, I think we're getting a little bit of miles under our belt now.
Yeah.
In the training.
I think we're up to 6, 7 now.
When you get into those, 10K plus runs, it only becomes more beneficial to have the right gear, and a Roof Sport's definitely one of the pieces you've got to have for some of those longer runs.
Yeah, it is. I'll tell you, I've been running inside lately because it's been just bitter cold here in Huntsville, and even having my Roof Sport there, because when you train for these runs, you train with the things that you're going to use on race day, and even having the Roof Sport on the treadmill, I don't feel it. And you start putting things in. Yeah, you feel the things that are in the pouch, but you don't feel this Roof Sport pouch that's on your waist with the magnets just because it's on there. It clips to your running shorts, and it's lightweight. It's not like one of those bulky bags. And these pouches are not the only things that they've got there on their website. They've got the power packs where you can charge your phone, throw that in your pouch, and you're doing one of these long runs. You're listening to all your music, your podcast. You're listening to us here on Sideline Warning while you're running. That drains your battery because you've got your music going. You've got your mileage logger going. Your battery's drained, so you need these power packs. And then at the end of the race, you go in there with these Roo Loungers. You put it in your little plastic bag. You pop up your Roo Lounger there at the tent at the end, and you just lounge and eat your as the Run Disney people. They give you the cardboard cheese.
Oh, so good,
so good. Your cardboard cheese, your fruit snacks. You just sit and listen to music and talk to people.
There you go.
They've got everything you need there at the www.theroosport.com. They've even given you a code, Sideline30, to get 30% off your entire order, and it makes good Christmas gifts.
Yeah, it's the holiday season. And actually, Dave, you spurred a thought, and Roo Sport partners, this is for free from me to you. Here's your new slogan. Put that in your pouch and run. There you go.
I like it.
Yep.
Something else that, I talked about Run Disney a second ago. We have had a great relationship with the guys over at the Florida Citrus Sports, and they now have 2 huge bowl games coming up. They've got the Camping World Stadium or Camping World game. They've got that's West Virginia and Syracuse, and then they've got the VRBO Citrus Bowl, and that's Kentucky and Penn State. And we've got a great relationship because we got our friend Mickey Boylan is coming on to talk about both of those games, all the fun things they've got going on in Orlando. And even if you're not a fan of those 4 teams, you could go down there and catch a game. They got some great ticket packages. We did an interview with him earlier. We're going to throw that on right now, and we'll be back after that interview. And like we said before, we've got actually our show's favorite guest. This is the only guy we've had on 3 times. The manager of marketing and communications of Florida Citrus Sports, Mickey Boylan. And Mickey, this is the second time in a row you've had the same title. I thought you get promoted every time you're on the show.
Maybe there's a surprise coming. I'm hoping with this being the 3rd time on the show, I'm getting one of those nice fancy robes like they give the guys on SNL.
That's the 5-timers club.
You know what? Well, we're different here. Maybe a 3-timers club works.
We'll get you something, Mickey. We'll figure something. A T-shirt or who knows?
Yeah, we'll find you something. We'll maybe a mug. World's greatest guest or something. I don't know.
Right.
So, Mickey, of course, having you on, we always have the special events that you talk about. But this time it's not really including Alabama, but it is including an SEC school, and it is including 2 great games. So why don't you go ahead and plug away? Tell our listeners what's going on over there.
Absolutely. Well, when I talked to you guys last, it was Alabama and Louisville. And instead of we didn't get Alabama, but we got an SEC team, and we stuck in the state of Kentucky with Kentucky. So we got Kentucky playing in the Citrus Bowl, VRBO Citrus Bowl against Penn State. 2 ranked teams, number 12 Penn State and number 14 Kentucky. So we're lucky, we got a really good draw there. The preliminary conversations and stuff I'm seeing online, whether it's news articles and on social media, both fan bases are pretty juiced to get down here. So we're looking forward to that on January 1st. And then before that, on December 28th, we've got Camping World Bowl with Syracuse and West Virginia. We've been here for the last 2 weeks, a lot of chatter from the Syracuse fans. So they were pretty amped to get down here. And, we got a really good draw with West Virginia. They were here 2 years ago, played Miami, so I had a lot of Miami fans in here. They're coming back this time looking for some revenge. They got Will Greer, David Sills, 5. A lot of offensive firepower. They were probably a touchdown away from going to the Big 12 champion, and we were lucky to have them fall into our lap a little bit. So we're looking forward to that match. It's also a big East rivalry from a decade or so ago. So a little bit of energy from those 2 fan bases going back at it for the first time in a while.
Yeah, I guess I totally forgot that was an old Big East rivalry. The Big East seems like it was years ago, but yeah. It's back. The rivalry's back. I kind of enjoy that. I noticed something that the Citrus Bowl has a new sponsor in VRBO. Go ahead and plug them a little bit. What's VRBO meant to the Citrus Bowl?
Absolutely. It's perfect timing. They got in there last week right before we did selections. VRBO stands for Vacation Rentals by Owners. It's a relatively new company that really you think about, when you go travel place to place, you're used to the hotels and things like that. But, today's day and age, there's all sorts of things now. So people can rent their houses out, their cabins, apartments, whatever it is, no matter what city you go to. And it gives you a nice another option for some lodging in different areas. And they've actually, the cool thing about the partnership is they have a lot of places in Florida. Florida's one of their biggest destinations in terms of the lodging they provide. So they're eager to get with us and, partner up on here, and especially in Orlando, which is such a big tourist destination. just to be able to get out in front of that and, hopefully get some people when they're all coming down for the bowl games, for the theme parks and all that good stuff.
Well, cool. Well, Mickey, talking about, you said Orlando being a tourist destination. We were talking a little bit on the pre-show here. Y'all have got a cool tourist destination type ticket package.
We do. We've got a couple. First one, which I think you're hinting at, is the Fun Spot Huge Deal. As you know, Orlando's got quite a few theme park and attractions around. Well, Fun Spot's one of them that has two different parks in the Central Florida area. And what we're doing is you can get a single ticket to either the Citrus Bowl, the VRBO Citrus Bowl, or the Camping World Bowl, and add on a single day admission ticket to one of the Fun Spot parks for a total of $50. So you're getting a steal deal. I think an average single day admission ticket to Fun Spot's $50, and you're lucky to come across any kind of football game ticket for $50. So to get both for $50 is pretty big steal, if you're asking me. The other package we have right now, which is going also pretty quickly, is the big time bundles. You can bundle up both games, so you get one ticket to the Camping World Bowl and one ticket to the VRBO Citrus Bowl for $80, and that's both of these deals include lower level seats. So you're sitting in the plaza level end zone, right in the thick of the action. So it's pretty hard to come across types of tickets like this, especially once teams are announced and you get to see the matchups we're featuring with two ranked opponents in both games.
Well, Mickey, for that sounds like a really great deal. For the Alabama-Louisville game, I couldn't believe how great the seats were. For anybody that was like in the end zone, you were so close to the action. Anywhere in the lower bowl was just a phenomenal seat. The field and the whole stadium just feels so intimate. Even folks that were up in the higher levels seemed to be like they were like right on top of the action. So it's a really great stadium you guys have got, and so it seems like it'd be an awesome time for either of these bowl games.
Yeah, I agree. It's weird, some football stadiums, especially outdoor ones, some of the higher up or the terrace level, you can kind of feel like you're far away, or you're not really getting a good view. But you're right, it's a very intimate setting. It almost feels like it's if you're familiar with NHL arenas or NBA arenas where you're kind of right on top of the action. They do construction is pretty good of how they built up a little bit, so you don't feel like you're too far away from all the action on the field.
Yeah, well, Mickey, go ahead and besides the bowl games and the Fun Spot deals and the big mega ticket deal, whatever, tell us about all the fun activities you do for the families around the bowl games. I know that a lot of bowl games do parades throughout the town. They do a lot of team meetings and stuff like that. So tell us what you got planned for the teams and the fans of these four teams coming down to Orlando.
Absolutely. We make it a whole bowl week out of it. It's not just the game on the 28th and the 1st. We like to fill up that time. So when you're coming down after the holidays and you're ready to join in the teams, we make sure that we get everyone involved in there. So probably our biggest event between the two is the Orlando Citrus Parade. It's actually completely new and revamped this year. Same route, but we've got a lot of new stuff added on. I mean, for one thing, some of the celebrities and guests we have coming on, Johnny Damon of Red Sox and Yankees fame is actually the Grand Marshal of the parade this year. It's another cool aspect of it is, the parade benefits. We have a benefit this year, which is Give Kids the World Village, which is a organization down towards Kissimmee, a little south of Orlando, that kind of takes families and gives them a free all-inclusive stay in Orlando at a nice resort, including trips to all the different parks in Orlando. So it's really good to see an event like this downtown that garners so much support and activity from the community, and be able to benefit and give back to places special as Give Kids the World Village, which actually in the past years we had a couple bowl events there. We brought some teams down there and they would hang out with the kids for a day. So it's a cool atmosphere there. Aside from that, both games have pep rallies at Point Orlando down on the I-Drive area. And both teams, coaches, and a couple players and mascots will show up there. The bands are there with the cheerleaders, put on a show. Each team gets about 45 minutes to an hour to, pump up the crowd. The coach usually gives a little pep talk. The bands play for a while. You get the cheerleaders running around and interacting with the different families that show up there. If you haven't been to Point Orlando, it's a really cool little district down there. Lots of restaurants and bars, some rides and some attractions like that. Just a cool place to check out if you have some time on your hands while you're down here. Aside from that, the teams have a couple things they'll be doing around town. We've got a day for kids where they'll hang out with kids at a different attraction around town. I believe we're at Main Event, and what's the other? Main Event is one of them, and I'm blanking on the other one right now. I don't want to say the wrong one, but yeah, there are a couple places around town that they'll go, get to play video games with the kids, some racing. Oh, Andretti kart and racing, that's where the other one is. So, they'll get the go-karts going. They'll play some arcade games, get to eat lunch and dinner with the kids. So stuff like that, it's pretty cool to check out. And a lot of these places are open to the public. So, anyone stops by can go, hang out, interact, and see the teams when they're not, in pads on the field hitting each other.
That's a good lineup of events, Mickey. It sounds like you guys have got so much more going on than a lot of other bowl games I've been to. A lot of times when you go to a bowl game, it's like they give you a list and they say, here's things that are in this city. Go do this if you want to. Or not, just stay in the hotel. But you guys are you guys have got like a full schedule. If somebody wants to go to these bowl games, you can fill a day, you could fill 2 or 3 days, and then you've also got the theme parks there. So I really, as far as travel experiences go, for fans, especially for fans that have families, you guys have got like an amazing setup.
Yeah, we're lucky. Orlando, everyone thinks of Disney World, Universal, stuff like that, but Orlando has so many other things. I mean, for the Camping World Bowl alone, we like to spread things out and make it. When you come down here, if you want, it's obviously you'll want to go to one of the theme parks. So book a day at a theme park. But we have some other events that happen. You don't have to take an hour to get the full experience. Like our Parade of Bands in Winter Park. If you haven't been to Winter Park, it's a small little suburb north of Orlando, really cool area, and both the ACC team, so Syracuse and West Virginia, the Big 12, their bands go down and go straight down Park Ave, which is a little brick and cobblestone road, and it's lined with fans just cheering them on, and that actually happens on game day. So if you want to start your day a little early, it's around 10 a.m., 11 a.m., and then you watch the bands go through, they're marching down, and then you can head straight to the stadium afterwards and get your tailgate on. We've got hospitality pavilions on Tinker Field right outside the stadium that's climate controlled, all inclusive food and drink, alcohol included. So I mean, there's tons of things to do on game day alone, but just the week itself, it's pretty hard to find something not to do.
Yeah, and I can attest to the pep rallies at Point Orlando too. When Alabama was down here playing Michigan State a few years ago, we went to Point Orlando, and it was just really cool to have them out there in a place that's familiar to the locals that root for the team, and to see, your team and your coach and your cheerleaders out there where you usually go on the weekends. And it was right there where you could be right on top of it, and everybody was getting jazzed. That was a really great thing that I can attest to, that folks should definitely look into. For the parade, Mickey, we've got some folks here in Orlando that listen to the podcast. What's your, insider tip for the parade for anybody with kids or locals that want to go see that? Is there a spot you should, try to get to, or a time you should try to get there for it?
Yeah, so you should definitely check out OrlandoCitrusParade.com for full details. It has the full parade route. But as far as best places to go, they have a TV production zone right towards the end, right off of Lake Eola, where there's grandstands set up, reserved seating, and you can get your tickets online for that. And that's when they'll walk the whole route. But when it gets to that end, most of the people going through there have a big grand finale, and that's the spot you'll be able to see it. You're right off the lake. Like I said, the grandstands are up there, so you have a perfect angle and everything. They'll do some interviews. You'll get the full scoop of the whole parade in that one spot, and it's like a big finale. It starts around 9:30 a.m. So the first set of people going through in the parade will probably get to that end around 10:15. So if you're in that TV production zone area, you're going to want to get there no later than 10, so you can catch the first group and not miss any of the action.
Okay, cool. Great. And I have one non-bowl related question for you, Mickey. We always go on the website and see the other stuff that Florida Citrus Sports has going on. My wife made me promise I'd ask you about Wednesday wine.
Oh, yeah. Wednesday Wine is our newest series of events, really. We just had our fourth one last month. We got another one coming up a week from Wednesday. And it is the next one is actually Wednesday Wine Yoga. Again, yoga's been a big hit. We take the big group out in the field, sit on the 25, 30-yard line. And then we have a private yoga class taught by a local yoga instructor. After it's about a 45-minute to an hour session. Then we take everyone up into one of the premium clubs, up in the plaza level, and we have happy hour. So food, wine, beer, White Claw, you name it, we have it up there. And that lasts for another 2 hours or so. So it's a good wind down thing to do in the middle of the week. Gets you ready for the rest of Thursday and Friday. Been taking off. The first event was kind of a member oriented thing. And since then, we've kind of evolved into a public trying to get some other types of events out there. We're so historically focused on football and, our team selection committees and things like that. But there's such a drive and a desire from our members that we've heard of, wanting some more networking and just smaller but intimate events on, during the weeks and during the seasons when it's not quite as busy. And it's kind of taken off, which is why we're doing one in the middle of bowl season now. So, Wednesday Wine, check out FloridaCitrusSports.com. It's one Wednesday a month. The next one is December 12th. So if you're interested, come check it out. It's been a hit so far.
Mickey, are you a regular at the yoga class?
You know what? I played some soccer and basketball growing up, and I feel like when I was watching one of these yoga classes, I was like, oh man, these are just stretches for me on some of them. And then 20 minutes in, all of a sudden they do start doing these crazy things that I don't know how anyone does, where you're pretty much standing on your head. It blows my mind. And that's when I decided to step out and just, I'm going to go back and kind of take this one on the side and watch it a little bit.
I'll join him when it comes to the bar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll meet you guys up there. Let me just
there you go.
Taste everything.
Well,
it's all good.
Well, Mickey, I would not expect a yoga class to be too strenuous on the facilities, but you guys are pulling off 2 bowl games in 5 days. How do you guys change over the stadium so quickly? Talk about that for a second, because I'm just trying to imagine. You've got one bowl game on the 28th, and then that's the Camping World Bowl, and then you turn around and have the Citrus Bowl on January 1st. How do you guys just change everything over so quickly? That seems like a major operation.
It's crazy, and I have to start off by saying our stadium and venues crew are just unbelievable, because the way they can change the side of the banners on the sides of the stadium, the field paint, and the logos, and the team names in the end zone, it's crazy. There's so many things that when you watch the game on TV, you don't really notice it needs to be changed from game to game, because you think it's not changed in an ice rink to a basketball court. It's just you change the logos, but the banners and the signage and all that kind of stuff that goes into it's nuts. And then to have to go from 2 teams that are 2 hotels, and they leave the day some leave the night of the game, some leave the day after, and you've already got the other 2 teams from the VRBO Citrus Bowl in town a day before the 28th. You're working with 4 teams on those 2 days, and it's madness. And it's crazy, because it's every single day there's a different event, and it's so scheduled out and planned out that you go through the week and it happens so quick. And it's kind of like the movie Old School, when they're taking that test at the end, and Will Ferrell just kind of blacks out and just, what happened. That's what it's like for bowl week. You get to the end of the game on January 1st, and you're like, man, where'd the day go? It felt like yesterday was the Camping World Bowl, and all you just, it's weird. It happens so quickly.
Yep. Mickey, I've got to ask, and this is probably going to be the last question I'm going to ask you, but Mickey, we hear all about these goodie bags that the players get, and it's always interesting to see what the players get at each bowl game. Can you disclose to our listeners what the players for Penn State, Kentucky, West Virginia, and Syracuse are going to get in these goodie bags?
I can. They're going to get some nice swag bags, these bowl-specific backpacks come loaded with some team watches, bowl watches, I'm sorry. couple T-shirts and some things like that. But then the biggest prize, and usually what garners a lot of attention once the prizes leak out, is a Best Buy shopping spree. It's pretty cool because our games over the past few years have got a lot of attention for this. We take the teams down separately to a Best Buy location around town and give them a couple hours to just go through and look and get whatever they want. I can't
whatever they want.
There's a price limit.
I was picturing somebody carrying a 70-inch flat screen under their arm.
It's happened. It's happened. But I've got to tell you, each year you'll get an outlet that kind of ranks the different prizes the bowls give out, and we've always been towards the top tier of those. And it's that the watches and the backpacks are cool, but that Best Buy gift card really gets them going. And I've got to say, one of the coolest stories, which I didn't know about until this year, we were talking about it a couple months ago. I want to say, I can't remember the year, but I believe it was Kansas. Kansas was down here, and one of their players was going with the team to Best Buy, and he was walking around the store and ran into three young kids, and the kids, it was it's around Christmas time, a little bit after, although that back then their trip might have been even before Christmas. So he ran into these kids. And I saw that they really were, looking around and trying to, they had some things that caught their eye. So instead of getting something for himself, he ended up just taking 3 kids on a spree and using his card entirely on them.
Too cool.
Really cool story. Yeah, you should Google it. I wish I could remember the year of that, but really cool story that, made national headlines from it. So things like that, it's always good to see. And, the players, like I said, it's a player favorite. So a couple of videos came out last year. One guy went and just bought the entire candy wall, Snickers, Kit Kats, everything. Weird thing to do in Best Buy, if you ask me, but hey, you do you.
Right. I'm sorry, Xboxes, PlayStations. No, I want all that candy.
Yeah, just give me those M&Ms.
Whoever's in charge of the training table program, the meal plans, is like, no, we can't do this right before the bowl game.
Save it for after.
Right. Well, Mickey, go ahead and tell people how they can follow Florida Citrus Sports. Throw yourself in there because you actually have some fun Twitter game. I've enjoyed following you this season on Twitter. You got some fun anecdotes on Twitter.
I try. Sometimes I get lucky. Sometimes I'm just digging for gold. But I'm at Mickey Boylan 7. But the real accounts you want to follow are at Citrus Bowl on Twitter, at Camping World Bowl, or at CW Bowl on Twitter. That's their 2 bowl games. On Facebook, you can find us at Camping World Bowl and at Citrus Bowl Orlando. And you can get your tickets for both games on our websites. First one is citrusbowlorlando.com. The other one is campingworldbowl.com. Tickets are right there. You're going to want to get your parking pass. I know we didn't touch on parking, but where the stadium's situated, there's not too many lots around, so parking goes quick. So word to the wise is get out there and get your parking pass early because you're not going to want to miss out on the nice tailgating spaces we have around there.
Well, cool, Mickey. And I'm going to go ahead and throw this plug out there, too. Even if you're not a fan of these 4 teams, go out there and support the Florida Citrus Sports. Go out there and support just local sports because you're going to see 2 good ball games. These are 4 great teams. Go out there and enjoy the ball game. Go out there and try to get you one of those fun spot tickets. But as Mickey said, those are going fast. So go out there and just enjoy the time. And it's great fun, family-friendly fun.
Absolutely. It goes right before your eyes. We got the Pro Bowl coming up in January afterwards. So we don't stop here. If you want to get a postseason bundle, you can get tickets to both bowl games and the Pro Bowl all in one package on our website at FloridaCitrusSports.com as well.
Man, I wish I went and lived in Orlando now. All right, Adam, you're going to have to go and be the sideline warning representative to all these events.
I'm loving it, guys.
All right, well, Mickey, we really appreciate it, man. And I know we say this in jest, but we do mean it. You are truly one of our favorite guys to have on here. You come with some good meat and good topic and good conversation, but we really appreciate all that you did to help us when we came down to the Alabama-Louisville kickoff game and just what you've done for our podcast. So we haven't had a chance to personally say it, but thank you very much.
Absolutely, guys. Pleasure's all mine. I appreciate it as well.
All right, well, Mickey, we'll talk at you hopefully next football season, or maybe even before. If something comes up, contact us. We'll contact you or something. We'll get you on the airwaves again.
Excellent.
All right, Mickey. We'll really appreciate it and have a great Christmas and have fun with all these bowls.
Thanks, guys. You do the same.
All right.
Thanks, Mickey.
And like we said on the interview, I do want to thank Mickey for all the time he gives us. He really is probably the best interview we do on this show. Thank you, Mickey. Thank you to the guys at Florida Sister Sports, what you do for this podcast.
Man, I'm excited about these bowl games. I really think outside of like the college football playoff, the Kentucky Penn State game is one of the games I'm most looking forward to. Mm-hmm. I just think that's going to be a fun game. I think Kentucky's just going to grind on Penn State. They're going to grind it out against them. Penn State's going to be trying to push back and trying to prove that they're a great team but not an elite team. Kentucky's got a shot at the top 10. Kentucky could finish in the I'm saying it in a hushed whisper, but that's a reality. That's the 2018 we're living in.
How's this for a reality, Ben? Kentucky football could possibly finish higher in the rankings than Kentucky basketball.
That's actually on the table. That is on the table.
That is the 2018 we are living in.
What a time to be alive.
Yeah. It's happening, Jeff.
Hey, speaking of it being a great time to be alive, I'm thinking of 3 football players who are having a great time being alive right now because they've all been nominated for the Heisman. We don't have any college football games to pick this week. So I think the only thing really for us to pick that would be reasonable is to pick the Heisman. Because I think now, where we thought somebody was running away with it, now there's a little bit of controversy as to who the Heisman winner could be. So let's pick that, guys. Obviously, there are 3 guys nominated for the Heisman. It is Dwayne Haskins from Ohio State. It is Kyler Murray from Oklahoma. And it's Tua Tagovailoa from Alabama. So go ahead, guys. Let's get our picks. Who's going to win the Heisman Trophy?
And let's do it in rankings, because they give you 1, 2, 3. Let's do 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go with the closest Heisman vote ever. It's going to be Kyler Murray 1, Tua Tagovailoa 2, and Dwayne Haskins 3. A far 3. I think 1 and 2 might be by 1 or 2 votes. I do think that Tagovailoa lost it on Saturday. I hate to say it, but Tua lost it on Saturday.
Can you see my show prep notes from the camera? Because that's exactly what I have written down right here, literally to the letter. I think I don't completely like it. But I think you're right. 1, Kyler Murray, 2, Tua, and 3, Dwayne Haskins, because Kyler Murray exists on a team that has no defense and requires him to score 45, 52 points a game to win, and lets the other team score so fast that he has the opportunity to do that every game. So I think if you put Kyler Murray on a team that had a defense and you weren't playing in the fourth quarter, you were giving a lot of snaps up to the next quarterback in line to make sure that you're not out on the field when you don't need to be. I don't think his stats would be nearly as good, but he's had to be in there for 4 quarters, and I think that's why his stats are so inflated. I think, though, much like some of the elections we saw down here in Florida, it's going to be close, and I think whoever mailed in their ballot prior to Saturday, how much of the volume happened before then and after then is going to determine which way this swings. But I think early voting is going to play a factor. I think it's going to be almost one of those 51-49 type deals like we see down here a lot. Tua might be able to pull it out because of the injury and people saying, well, if he hadn't been injured the way Alabama's defense was stopping him, he would have turned it around. But I think Kyler's going to edge it out.
So both of you guys are going with Kyler Murray.
Yep.
Yeah.
Too bad they're sitting for the standings, Ben.
Yeah, it's a shame because I'm going to gain a lot of ground on you guys. This one should be worth like 10 points. This one should be worth 10 points because it's a big deal. Let's just give me a moment. Humor me. I am going to just take a moment to make the case for Dwayne Haskins. Okay, now that that's done. it comes down to two guys. Dwayne Haskins is going to, I really feel sorry for him because there is no reason for him to be at this ceremony. He is literally there for ratings, so some Ohio State fans who are full of self-loathing will tune in to watch. There's no reason that anybody other than Murray and Tagovailoa should be at this ceremony. It should be two guys, and there should be all the suspense between the two of them. That's all there should be. There's no reason for Dwayne Haskins to be there. And it's going to be embarrassing when you see the point totals because he's going to be so far away. He's not going to get any first-place votes. It is going to be a close one. It's going to be a split. But Tua did enough in the Auburn game to seal the deal. I think it's going to be Tua. I think it's going to be close, but I think he's going to edge it out because I think the Auburn game was convincing enough. The stats were there. The case was made in the Auburn game. And I get it, Tua undid himself a little bit in the SEC championship game, but I think most people already had their minds made up. I also think there's some critical football consumers that go and watch the Big 12 and go, wow, there's really no defense. The takeaway from Oklahoma versus West Virginia was not Kyler Murray's really good. The takeaway from that game was there is no defense in the Big 12. That's been the takeaway when Oklahoma's played Texas in both games. You go, okay, there really is no defense. And I think critical football consumers are the ones that are casting these ballots. And I think that's going to prove out for Tua, or at least that's my cause for optimism.
All right. Well, good stats there by the three of us.
One more thing. I gotta say this.
I gave you a moment. You said a moment.
I gotta throw one more thing out there. Kyler Murray has made the comment that he wants to go focus on baseball. And football guys want to vote for football guys. And Kyler Murray may have been a great quarterback this year, but he's saying he's a baseball guy. And I think that's going to actually hurt him in the voting too. He says you can't play football for forever, but a baseball career can last 20 years. You don't see guys, pushing 40 playing football. So I understand there's like one or two, but you hate Tom Brady and you hate Drew Brees. But I think that factors in the back of people's minds that Kyler Murray says, hey, I'm actually more of a baseball guy. I don't think they want baseball guys to be talking about Heisman trophies. They want football guys.
You got a baseball guy voting for the Heisman Trophy. Tim Tebow votes for the Heisman Trophy. He's a baseball player. You've got Charlie Ward voting for it. He's a basketball player.
I understand. I just think, on the whole, all of these people that are casting ballots, I think some of that factors in. When you're looking at things that get you an edge, that's where it comes.
All right. Well, you tried to bring good stats. Good stats by me and Adam. Someone else that brings up good stats. Wait.
Well, hang on.
I'm trying to transition
I am
here.
shocked. I am shocked that Ben Foster did not make a case for Quinnen Williams.
Well, he didn't get invited.
Look, you've got a great point. Quinnen Williams did not get his name called. Quinnen Williams did not get his name called as much down the stretch, the Auburn game and the SEC championship game. The big plays that got his name in the conversation earlier this season were not there. He still played great. He still played really well, but he didn't play Heisman caliber. I love Q. I hope the best for him. He is more deserving of being invited to the ceremony than Dwayne Haskins.
That's why I'm shocked you didn't make a case.
He'd get more votes. Well, I had so many other points. I wanted to keep it QB specific rather than just Q specific.
Got it. Okay. All right, Dave. There you go.
Let's bring it back. To
Dave, do you have a segue you'd like to do?
Well, no. Sorry, Dad. I'm doing this. I'm going to bring it back and just making a quick reference. 1,000 points of light. Rest in peace, George H.W. I had to bring it in there. 1,000 points of light. Yeah. R.I.P. Just like we had some great stats, we have our key stat man back this week. Kyle's key stat of the week. Take it away, Kyle.
Hey guys, it's Kyle back here with your key stat of the week. Spent a lot of time crunching numbers, looking over some great statistical analysis after the conference championship weekend, and I've come up with just a few things I want to share with you guys. Alabama had another incredible comeback. Over the past 2 seasons in championship settings against a great Georgia team, Alabama has led for a grand total of 64 seconds. In regulation, overtime, that's it, and still managed to come out with a win in both of those games. Incredible grit by the Alabama Crimson Tide. Incredible grit by the backup quarterbacks that have won both of those games. Big shout out to Jalen Hurts. What an incredible story. I'm sure you guys are covering in great detail this week. Speaking of conference championships, another shout out. For the first time in school history, UAB has won the Conference USA, earning 10 wins for the first time in school history after being shut down just a few years ago. Speaking of 10 wins, of the playoff teams, neither Oklahoma nor Clemson have a single win over an opponent that has 10 wins on the season. Even Notre Dame has a win over 10-win Michigan. Speaking of playoff teams, here's a stat that does not look good in Alabama's favor, but can be overcome with good defense and great offensive play. 0-4. In 4 tries, not a single number 1 seed has won the national championship since the playoffs have begun. That doesn't look good for us. Number 4 seeds have won it twice. Number 2 and 3 have won apiece. Speaking of that big number 0, since the first time the SEC split up into divisions in 1992, unless something changes, as of this recording, there are 0 head coaching changes in the SEC. That hasn't happened before. There's always been at least 1 change. The only thing that may change is if somebody picks up Derek Mason or Mark Stoops goes somewhere. But based on the jobs that are open, I don't see that happening this season either. Guys, there are my key stats. Oh, one more major stat I want to tell you guys about. 12-1. That's right, 12-1 is not just the record of Oklahoma going into the playoffs. 12-1 is Dave Adams' record when picking Alabama Crimson Tide games. Could be a perfect 13-0, but he turned his back on the Tide and became unbuckled from the football team. Just absolutely shameful, Dave. Hope you have a better pick when it comes time to talk about the Oklahoma game and the game against what will probably be Clemson. Roll Tide, guys.
Ben, I told you to cut out that last stat. No one needs to know about that last stat. I made an apology on Facebook. Everyone knows why I picked Georgia, and I was almost right, but we don't have to bring up the fact that I'm 12-1 picking Alabama.
Hey, look. Kyle brought out a ton of great stats, but I really do think that last stat was the most informative. So I really wanted the listeners to be able to hear that.
I told you to cut it, though.
I want to print T-shirts. I want to print T-shirts for our show that says "Sideline Warning" featuring the golden voice of the Southeast quote, "I was almost right." I think they'd sell like hotcakes.
Well, it's that point where a couple of co-hosts get to hear their favorite 4 words. Dave Adams was wrong. Dave Adams was wrong. I
was wrong.
Hey,
am I unbuckled on this Alabama football team? No. I am always a huge fan of this football team, but I thought that the college football playoff had it in for Alabama and did not want any part of Oklahoma and Ohio State. And I still stand by that. I still think that they reluctantly put Oklahoma in the playoff.
Maybe so. Also, I do think it is worth shouting out. Kyle mentioned it, but congrats to UAB. Just if we want to make a movie about Jalen and Tua, I think you could make a movie about UAB and it'd be pretty good too. I think there's a lot of people that would line up to watch that movie. And so kudos to UAB and what Bill Clark and that team have been able to accomplish. It would be great to see them knock off Northern Illinois in the Cheribundi Tart Cherry Bowl in Boca Raton. That would be a pretty amazing thing. We'll get to that in the bowl picks in our next show. But kudos to UAB. So Alabama got a conference championship and UAB got a conference championship. But we haven't talked about how Auburn did in their conference championship game.
Oh, wait. They didn't go.
They didn't play in a conference championship game.
No.
Sorry, no.
Hey, did Tennessee get to a bowl game? No.
What's
Don't
that
believe
sound?
so.
Is that silence? From the two Tennessee apologists? Wow.
We're just stating facts. This is a fact-based podcast. We just want to state the facts, and we can report Tennessee is not going to a bowl game.
Are you sure?
No, they're not. No bowl games.
Can we do a recount? Can we do a recount?
Sure.
We can do those down here all day long.
Go right ahead, Dave.
Yeah. So let's look at the bowl pick'ems here. I'm looking. Did Tennessee make a playoff game? A bowl game? Okay, just making sure. I just want to make sure.
That was Dave's church choir.
All right, so Tennessee didn't make it.
I think that clarifies it.
Okay, all right. Well, you've heard it. We've had our picks. We've had our Kyle's Key Stat of the Week. We've had our interview with Mickey Boylan. We talked about how great Jalen is. It's now time to bring the fire. Ben Foster, bring your sideline warning.
Okay, I talked about this earlier when we were talking about potentially expanding the playoff to 8 teams. And I said, UCF's not going to win a national championship. They're not going to get past Alabama and Clemson. They don't deserve to be in the top 4. And while I think that's completely true, and while we've spent a lot of time dogging and occasionally complimenting UCF on this season, I have to go back to UCF being in the American Athletic Conference. And that conference running ads throughout the season saying that there's actually a Power 6 and that they should be considered a power conference and be the 6th conference in addition to the Power 5 schools. And I am here to say UCF, American Athletic Conference, that is completely unnecessary. All we need is a Power 5, and I would like to invite you, American Athletic Conference, to take the Pac-12's place. Because the Pac-12 has been so atrocious in football and so atrocious so far in college basketball. The American Athletic Conference is definitely a better basketball conference than the Pac-12, and I am now convinced the American Athletic Conference is a better football conference than the Pac-12. So I would like to do just like they do in the Premier League over in England for soccer. I would like to take an entire conference and relegate them and elevate the American Athletic Conference to be a Power 5 conference and us just be done with this Pac-12 stuff. We don't need the West Coast thing. The games are too late and they're not good. So Pac-12 After Dark, while it's fun every now and then, it's not fun enough. Congratulations, American Athletic Conference. You are now a Power 5 conference. Pac-12, you have been demoted.
There you go. Good heat. Adam?
I love it. They're already claiming Power 6, so go ahead and promote them on up. So along the same lines of the American Athletic Conference, one of their teams, you want to move them in, but one of their teams thoroughly dismantled our basketball team. And the final score wasn't really representative of how bad that game, Alabama versus UCF last week, really was. I had the pleasure of wasting some of my hard-earned money to go watch it in person. And as moderately unbuckled and slightly grumpy as I was about Alabama basketball before this game, I became fully unbuckled and moderately enraged at Alabama basketball as a result of that. Well, I've calmed down since then, but I know my texts immediately following the game that evening were a little bit more lively than this sideline warning might be. But when
somebody's an angry elf.
When you go 25 of 66 from the floor, that's 38%. 37.9. I rounded up. 25 of 66, and you take 21 more shots than the other team, and you still find a way to lose by 6 and be down 15-4 to start the game. It's absolutely ridiculous. So the game itself, if you just looked at the box score, you'd say, wow, we really stunk at shooting. We need to do better at that. 20% from three-point land. We need to do better at that. 64% from the free throw line. We could probably be better at that. There's some ways to improve and continue the overall, quote, upward trajectory that we've been on so far. When I'm sitting in the stands, and I highly invite, I've seen Greg Byrne, I think, in the stands at certain games, right? Like he likes to mingle with the people, right? I would love for him to come on down to the next UCF game that they've got down here so that he can hear the lady behind me say when the score was 15-4, wow, I didn't think Alabama was going to be this bad. That is the ultimate sentiment, ma'am. I didn't get your name, but she was really nice to Aiden. But that's besides the point. that's the ultimate sentiment of this team. Is there were stretches of that game where we actually took the lead, but then we just found a way to miss layups, miss high percentage shots, take too many 3-point shots. And honestly, watching it in person, it looked like there wasn't any sense of organization to the offense. It was, oh, that guy's open, I'm going to dump the ball to him. Oh, this guy's 6 inches away from me, and he doesn't have a defender on him, so here, I'm going to hand it to you. It was absolutely ridiculous. Avery Johnson was acting like a lunatic the whole time, and it was a highly embarrassing show in my hometown by the UCF Knights. That said, before we go off onto any kind of tangents this might lead to, shout out to my son, Aiden. I had a lot of fun with you, man. He's my little basketball buddy. I have to say, I sent you pictures, guys, a picture of the UCF T-shirt that someone handed him in the crowd when they were doing the T-shirt cannon. He looked at it and he was like, oh my gosh, I got an Alabama T-shirt. And everybody around us laughed. And when he actually opened it and saw it was UCF, he was quite disappointed. So you would have been proud of him.
Good for him.
But anyway, I'll open that up to the floor.
Okay, well, let me go ahead and hit my sideline warning.
I've got a question. It's just one simple question. Adam, your main point there was Alabama's slow start 15-4 down to UCF. What was more frustrating? Alabama basketball slow start or Alabama football slow start in the SEC championship? Just which was more frustrating?
I would say they were equally as frustrating, but knowing that the basketball team didn't have a chance by the way they were playing to come back, whereas we actually made second half adjustments on the football field and were able to take the defense and adjust it as needed, we at least could do something there. But when we take 21 more shots at the end of the day and we couldn't hit 4 of them to end up winning this game, absolutely ridiculous. And it's the lack of hope, Benjamin Foster. It's the lack of hope.
I'm hopeful. I was frustrated, but I'm still hopeful.
So my sideline warning.
So the percentage of hopeful people about basketball on this podcast is 33%, almost equal to what we shot from the floor that night.
There you go.
I'm done.
So my sideline warning goes great hand in hand with Adam's sideline warning, because last week, 2 weeks ago, when Ben and myself went on this wonderful Festivus for the rest of us airing of the grievances of the basketball team rant, the question was posed to me and Adam, if not Avery, then who? And I didn't have a good answer.
No, you
but
didn't.
But the basketball gods smiled down upon us today, because an NBA head coach got fired from my beloved Chicago Bulls, who, lo and behold, was a great college basketball coach and probably would want to come back to the college basketball realm. It is time to fire Avery Johnson because of the reasons Adam pointed out. They are not coached. They are not able to pass. They're not able to shoot. There are no second half adjustments made. Let's bring on one Fred Hoiberg. Who is Fred Hoiberg, you ask? Well, I will tell you. In 2013 and 14, in 2014 and 15, he brought Iowa State to win the Big 12 conference. But wait, Dave, isn't Kansas in the Big 12? Yes, they are. Fred Hoiberg took Iowa State in a Kansas-driven Big 12 conference and won. He has an overall college basketball record of 115-56. He took a Craig McDermott-led Iowa State team who was 12th in the Big 12 in McDermott's last season. And then Hoiberg was 12th his first season, but then in his second season, which Ben says is impossible to do at a bad location, he took Iowa State to tied for third in the Big 12 and the round of 32 in the NCAA Division I tournament. In his final 4 years at Iowa State, he did not miss an NCAA tournament. In fact, he went to the Sweet 16 in his fourth season at Iowa State. But the question Ben's going to bring to mind, which I know he's going to at the end of this sideline warning, is, Dave, he's an Iowa State guy. Mama called it Iowa State. Well, yeah, he left Mama, and he went to the NCAA to the NBA
Because he played for the Bulls. That's his other mama. He has his college mama and his pro mama.
Well, his new mama has a really good. And by the way, he played for the Bulls for just a couple of years. He didn't play with MJ. He played with a horrible Bulls team.
He played for like 4 seasons. He played with MJ.
99 to 03. MJ retired in 98. Thank you very much.
They overlapped in 98, didn't they?
No, he played in 95 to 99. He played for the Pacers. He played with big ears. Played with Reggie Miller. So, Alabama, Greg Byrne, fire Avery Johnson. Your head coach in waiting, Fred Hoiberg, is sitting there waiting for the call. I'm done.
So you're moving from hashtag buckle up to hashtag unbuckled to hashtag stop the car.
Yes.
Got it.
Stop the car. I'm getting out.
You say Hoiberg didn't play with Jordan. I just think, he had success where he's from. He had success where he was an alum. I just think that may not translate. It could translate, but it's the first week of December. It is far too early to be talking about firing anybody. So this is just the whole thing's just patently absurd. But the idea that Fred Hoiberg's just gonna be like, oh yeah, sure, I'd love to come to Tuscaloosa. That sounds great. I don't know, Dave. I mean, it just seems absurd.
Does he talk like that? If he talks like that, I say don't hire him.
It seemed absurd that one Nicholas J. Saban would leave the Miami Dolphins. It seemed absurd that Avery Johnson, an NBA coach, would come to Alabama. That experiment is done. It's proven the fact that it's not a good experiment. It's time to bring a proven college coach to Tuscaloosa. Fred Hoiberg, come on down.
It's not like a transplant. Like, you can't be like, oh yeah, he was successful at Iowa State. He'll definitely be successful in Tuscaloosa. I just be careful what you wish for. You might think that you're getting like Chicago Bulls Michael Jordan, but you might actually be getting like sad crying Jordan. That's what.
Here you go. I'm starting it. Last year it was hashtag buckle up. For me, it was hashtag unbuckled. Here we go. Hashtag hire Hoiberg.
Nice.
Oh, it's got alliteration. So, let me know how many retweets that one gets, Dave.
So Hoiberg, come on down. You're the next contestant on You Better Win or We Won't Like You. That sounds like a great prize. Oh, that sounds like a great prize. Hey. The fogs will come out. I think I'm with you, Dave. I think we've got to find the coach that nobody thinks would come.
And it's
Les Miles in Kansas, man. You got a football program that has gone up as much as they could possibly do. They've gone back on the hard times. You got to get somebody in there who no one would ever expect. And this falls in that with me. Even Ben just said it, so I'm all for it.
There you go. Hashtag hire Hoiberg. That is the new hashtag under Sideline Warning. We will tweet that out tomorrow when this show goes live. Sideline Warning Twitter will now be officially on the hashtag hire Hoiberg bandwagon.
No, the Sideline Warning Twitter will not. I have a 33% stake in that Twitter account.
You are outvoted, sir.
I'm going to be hashtag it's December.
I'm perfectly
it's
willing
December.
to give you edit the podcast, Ben, so I'm perfectly willing to give you a controlling vote.
Hashtag it's December.
All right, well, how about hashtag next week will be the College Football Playoff Bowl Extravaganza. Adam, you weren't around for last year's Bowl Extravaganza. It's a fun time. We have a party. We have a pizza party, and we eat pizza while we watch Skype together, and we pick bowl games.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Look forward to it, guys.
We are going to put on a Sideline Warning Bowl Pick'em on ESPN. Adam, you came in second last year in the Bowl Pick'em, didn't you?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. This year it's going to be a little harder. Because the co-hosts are going to do it, we're going to make our listeners do it. It's not just going to be a straight Pick'em this year. We are going to put in confidence points. So before all the bowl games start, I think, Ben, you said they start on the 15th?
Yep.
That'd be correct.
Before the 15th, we want to get as many of our listeners in this Sideline Warning Bowl Pick'em on ESPN. Search the group Sideline Warning Bowl Pick'em. Get in there. Do we want to put a password on there, or just let anybody join?
We'll post all the details on social media.
Yeah.
Okay. Look for it on social media. It'll be up there tomorrow. We'll get you on there. Also, if you want to get on social media, find us on Twitter. I am at dadams419. You will find me under the Twitter handle this week will be #Hire Hoiberg. I'm going to change it from Georgia deserves a playoff spot to #Hire Hoiberg. You can find Ben is at the Ben Foster. Adam is at Run Tide Run. You can find us for the show. We're at SW The Show. We're also on Instagram at SW The Show. Find us on Facebook. Facebook.com/SW The Show. Also, join the Facebook fan group, Sideline Warning Facebook fan group. Sometimes we'll put out their questions that, like we did last week, we're going to record what he wants to talk about. Guys, after next week's Bowl Extravaganza, we're going to have 2 best of shows. Ben, you're the editor. Tell them about the best ofs coming up.
We've got 2 great best of shows. One will be a outtake extravaganza, and another one will be all of the best of moments where we point out things like Dave saying Nick Markakis is not going to be good shortly before he becomes a National League All-Star. So that's something to look forward to. It'll be lots of outtakes and lots of Dave is wrong.
Hey, and I'll tell you what, if you've got a favorite moment from the last year of Sideline Warning, Adam, how do they get a hold of the show to request a moment in the outtake show?
Yeah, that would be 931-44 Blitz. Think about your favorite moment that really had an impact on you in your life, and call 931-44 Blitz, and we will play that moment in our best of show. Or if you just want to hear Dave be wrong, we could have a whole probably 30 minutes of one of them be Dave being wrong. I think that would be great to hear.
I don't know if we could have enough 30 minutes of Dave being wrong. I mean, I think maybe a 5-minute show.
That would still be worth it.
It will be our longest show.
And anyway,
if we play every clip where Dave was wrong, it will be the longest show we've ever done.
53 episodes, right? But 931-44 Blitz.
All right, guys. And we say it all every week. We love you. We will see you guys next week for the Bowl Extravaganza. Get ready for a long 4 weeks of Alabama versus Oklahoma talk. Roll Tide. That went a lot longer than I thought it would.
It went exactly as long as I thought it would. We had like 13 topics. Adam texted them to me.
Don't just sing it. Bring it.
All right, so we're going to do bowl game, or not bowl game, SEC, conference playoff picks, Mickey.
Picks? What picks?
We're not picking.
Well,
we're not picking.
Conference playoff, yeah.
Not conference playoffs.
SEC championship recap.
SEC champion recap.
Who is this man?
Dave.
I don't know.
We recorded a podcast, everybody.
I'm sounding like Tigger tonight. I'm Tigger too.
SEC championship recap.
Yes.
Well, Dave.
No, we'll do the one listener question there, and then we'll do the Jalen question. Well, we could do the Jalen question.
Let's do.
Dave, you
SEC,
may want to write
SEC,
this out.
Yeah, let's write this out.
Okay.
SEC slappy and ship recap.
Hey, I won an argument. Sorry.
You didn't win an argument.
Wow.
You literally just took my argument. Like, I'm never texting you anything ever again.
Hey, hold up.
Ooh, to him, you're just the podcaster on the other sideline, man. That's all
I
you
know, right?
Clearly, that's how he's treating me. He has no respect for the 9 years that I taught him everything I know about broadcasting and podcasting, and now he's just going to throw things back to.
Wait, you got taught?
I was going to say, whose idea was this podcast? Thank you.
All the
This
things
is how the band breaks up.
all the things I've taught Dave after he was under my tutelage for 9 years, and now it's just coming back to haunt me as he refers to me as the podcaster on the other side of the podcast.
There's our fun long outtake for the night.
And that was the last time they ever recorded together for the next 35 years.
Yeah, that's it. You just gave me a perfect idea.
Full warning.
You're welcome. See, this is what I'm talking about. I help him. That I get no help.
Do you ever do the thing where you put him in a... None at all.